Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
And how are you?
Oh, shit, I forgot to go first.
It's okay, we just talked for like an hour about a million things, so it's
Yeah,
totally
we
fine.
we've talked so much. But what have I done since the last time I talked to you? My grandma was in town.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and that was lovely. I hang out with her. Um, I met my uncle's wife and all his stepkids, on Saturday when I was in Arizona. Fun fact, Phoenix is fucking hot.
that's what I've heard. I've heard it's like 150 or something.
It
So,
was 106 degrees on Saturday. Um, but you know how white people always say it's not the heat, it's not the heat that'll
it's the
get you, it's the
humidity.
humidity. Yeah. So
True.
I happen to like humidity because at least
Oh.
no, because at least when it's humid, my brain understands what is happening. And you have to remember, like, I lived in Florida and I lived in Bangkok.
Mhm.
Like, humidity makes sense to me. When it's over 110 degrees and you're not sweating because there's not enough liquid left in your body to sweat, it's confusing.
I have to say, I feel like I'd like that. I hate sweating, and I feel like I just sweat so much because of all the humidity.
You know that sensation when you're baking and you open the oven too fast and you get hit
Oh,
in the face
no, do not like that.
every time you open a
That's
door? That's
oh,
Phoenix.
oh God. Oh,
Yeah.
it was 103, I think, in Louisiana last weekend. But they do have plenty of humidity there, plenty of water to go around.
Oh yeah, no, they're probably like swimming.
Yeah, you feel like there were some days when I lived in New Orleans that I would walk outside and feel like I was drowning just breathing the air. Like, and that might be an oversaturation, but you could like feel it in your like you're like breathing. It was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm glad you didn't die,
it was
but
like
I
it was like 78 degrees here when I got back, and I was like, I'm a little bit cold.
I know I've been like so thankful because everyone's like how are you surviving? Because I also like bought the wrong fans this year. It's so they weren't as cool as they normally are, and I don't use my AC because it doesn't work. And
Yeah.
so I was just like, I'm fine now. Like, how are you surviving? Like this year we've had I think we've had two heat waves, but I think I wasn't here for one. I think it was when I went to Miami. And so like
Mm.
we've had one heat wave since I was here. And so it's been manageable. I mean, there are days I'm like warm, so it's not great. But last year, I felt like we had a heat wave like every other, and I was just miserable because you could never get relief from it. But at least here, like right now, there's some nights it gets down to like 67, or like if it drizzles or is overcast that day, like it's not nearly as hot in my apartment. So I've
Is your microphone on the cord again?
um no, I don't think so. It's a little bit farther away from me because I have my computer plugged in.
Oh,
Um,
sorry. It just started to get a little bit crispy on your speech, and I didn't want everyone to miss your story about
oh, thank you about the heat.
yeah.
I'm telling thrilling stories this past 2 weeks. Cleaning my house, how hot I am because of the temperature of the weather. Um, yeah, is that better? Can you hear me
Yeah.
better? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, but otherwise, aside from the heat, I've been doing fine. Been reading a lot, which is fun. I love reading. I finally read Verity that everyone's been
Mm.
talking about for like 3 or 4 years now. That Colleen Hoover book that is insane, and it is. It's really well written. So like if you were on the fence about it, I mean it's like also kind of traumatic, so be warned, but otherwise it's really well written. And if you were on the fence, everyone should read it. And right now I'm
I
reading Darkly Dreaming Darkly Dexter or whatever, the first book in the
mm,
Dexter series.
okay. I'm actually reading a book that was written in 2023.
I have one that's next on my list. What book
I
are you
never
reading?
it is called Oh shit. Oh, it's called The Paris Deception
Oh, I think I've heard about that. Does it have a
by
pink and gray cover? That's different
N-
about Paris.
no, it's got a cover, like the cover is like the profile of a girl in an art museum.
I'm thinking of a book then. Who wrote it? Who's
No,
the
it's
author?
Bryn Turnbull. I'm trying to remember what else she wrote that I was like, oh shit, she wrote this. She Bryn Turnbull, she has four books. She she wrote The Woman Before Wallace, which I wanted to read because
Mhm.
it's about the British. But the Paris Deception, it's about this girl who works in an art museum in Paris when the Nazis invade.
Ooh, that does sound interesting.
I bought it in
Yeah,
the
the book I'm
airport
getting
and
ready to read is a thriller.
I bought it in the airport in Toronto on my way to London, thinking that I would read more in London, and then I didn't. But I did finally finish the Nora Roberts trilogy, so I just started that. And when I opened it and realized it was written in 2023, I go, "That's weird. I've never read a book the year it came out."
I did when I did book reviews, but other than that, I haven't really in a while. The one I'm reading is Amazon First Reads because, like, with Prime, you get a book for, I think,
Yeah,
every so often you get two, and so I think July I got two maybe, and one of them is, gosh, the Broadway something, and it's a thriller that I haven't started yet. And then there's this one, and I don't remember what it's called, but it's by the person who wrote the Jessica Shaw series, which I haven't read but I've heard of. And I started it because I needed a break from the Dexter. It's like it's fine, but it's not like super captivating, which I'm almost done
yeah,
with it now, so I'll finish it and move on. But
yeah.
so I just needed like a break. And so I read like the first 10% of this book, and it's a thriller about like a real estate agent, and they have an open house, and there's a body in the water. And that's basically all I know. And I'm finding out like everyone else has different like motives for selling that house because they all need the money for different reasons. So I think it's gonna be good. But
Okay.
uh, I'm just like I'm so into reading lately, which is good because I missed it. Um, I feel like I've talked so much in the past like 2.5 hours because we talked to each other for so long. I don't know what to talk about now. So
Happens.
I'm just gonna move on then. That's our intro. So you know what does make me feel better, even when I've talked a lot or haven't? I'm not good with the transitions right now.
No.
Tell me some
To be fair,
spiritual
it's late.
guidance.
It is late.
It is.
I thought that I'm gonna be honest. I picked my quote for this episode before I watched either of the episodes that I had watched today. And I picked the quote and I wrote it down and I thought, oh, haha, funny, nice little tie-in to the show. And then I watched today's episode and I was like, wow. Because for those of you who don't know my logic, I just go to Brainy quotes and look at the quote of the day and look at which of the six quotes that they list as quote of the day speaks to me more. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I really like that quote, but I don't really like it for this. So I'll like grab that author and look at some of their other quotes. Um, but this happened to be today's funny quote of the day. And it was by George Carlin, the comedian. And the
Four
quote
letter
said,
words.
yes, the quote said, may the forces of evil become confused on their way to your house.
Yep, that tracks. That's a good one for today.
And then I watched today's episode of The Exorcist.
And fell apart. Yeah, fair. Fair, fair, fair. So here we are.
Yeah.
Today's episode is The Exorcist season 1, episode 5. It is called I can't read my own handwriting again. Through my grievous fault. Through my grievous fault. Grievous was the word I couldn't read. I just that's because you don't. I always like write the title at the very top in this like weird small handwriting, and so like I can never read it when I. It's just like. So it aired October 21st of
Hold on.
2016.
Hold on. Hold on. I have no idea anything you just said
No.
since you tried to pronounce the name of the episode, because between my headphones deciding they didn't want to work and you being a little bit electronic-y, I got none of it.
Let's see if I can like shift a bit. It's really close to my face now. Um,
But okay, so the episode is called Through My Who What's Huh?
through my grievous fault.
Okay.
And I was just saying, like in my notes, I write it like at the top of the like page in like tiny letters, just like really quick. And so you can't read it, I can't read it.
I was gonna
I
say
never know what it
you just
says.
showed that to me, and I literally that word could not have told you what it was.
No, it was I had to pull it from the recesses of my mind, which is fine. So it aired October 21st of 2016. It was rated. Can you guess what it was rated?
Um, let's say a 9.6.
No, it was rated 8.5, which is the highest we've had so far.
But it's also not
Um,
true. Okay, maybe 9.6 was me being a
I
little.
think 9.6 is a little high, but like
Oh,
9.2 is not. Like,
right. I would have given it a solid
yeah,
9. Solid 9.
I did. I rate it. I always try to rate them on IMDb as I'm going through my like the notes so that I can make sure if I like credited someone before that it'll be like you saw them in this other episode so I can remember if I've already talked about them. But yeah. Also it's a boring year for music. Number one song is still Closer. Closer. Jesus Christ. I that's just how you pronounce it differently. And it's really funny. You brought up and the Nutty Professor was like Tyler Perry before he was Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
And it's funny because today's number one movie, being October 21st, is Boo, the Medea Halloween special.
I'm done.
And then the book was Two by Two by Nicholas Sparks, which I haven't read, but I think my mom read it.
That actually is, yeah, I was gonna say, I thought I had gotten to a point where I'd read all of Nicholas Sparks, but then he wrote more, and so I think I have
He
not
just
read
kept
that.
going.
Yeah,
Yeah. I told you about the time I like saw him speak at campus.
yeah,
I love him so much.
me too.
On this day, couple things that are semi-interesting. I had to dig through the recesses of the internet to find it as well. This is when AT&T has agreed to buy Time Warner. It hasn't gone through yet, but this is when they finally like agreed to buy them. And also this is after Bob Dylan has been announced as the Nobel Prize winner, but has not yet accepted it. And they came out and made a statement today that he has not accepted it yet. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay. But he eventually did accept it
sure.
or something. Like he got it
Something.
eventually, but
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, so that was that day. I remember it because they had some of his like artwork or whatever at the New Orleans Museum, and that's why I used to go like on Wednesdays because they did on Wednesdays anybody like a resident of Louisiana could go for free. And so I'd go and it
Oh,
was
I thought you were
lovely.
gonna
And I
say it's
remember that's
because
how I learned about him
every
like getting the Nobel Prize.
everyone at the museum wore pink.
No, they didn't, unfortunately. I probably didn't either because New Orleans was probably like hot and sweaty. Um, the director is Jason Insler. He's known for The Passage, The Newsroom, and Love Victor. And he doesn't really have a lot
Oh,
of fun facts
wait, do
about
I know
him other
Love
than
Victor?
like, yeah, it's the like TV show that was meant to be kind of like a like correlated to like Love, Simon.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean I haven't seen it, but yeah, you would know
yeah.
what it was still. Um, so he doesn't have anything like super interesting about him, but his wife is Rebecca McFarlane, who has been in one role in every show. Like she's been on every show that's ever aired. She played someone named Tara Conklin, I think, on Grey's Anatomy. That might be where you would like remember her off the top of your head, but like her face I have seen in every show I've ever watched. Like it's just she's everywhere. But she doesn't have any like major starring roles. She's just a one-off role in everything. Um, but yeah. And so then our writer is David Grimm. Again, he does not have a lot about him, and so I am going to assume he is related to the brothers Grimm,
Okay,
because they didn't tell me he wasn't, and I
perfect.
like to make up my own rules. So he's an old known for River of Fundament, working in the theater, and I'm gonna say this movie is Nosferatu, but it's spelled Nos four, like the number four, a letter, then the number two. Um, I am going to assume that's meant to be a play on the name Nosferatu.
It is actually,
And I stared at it for way longer than I should have
well,
earlier
okay,
to figure out what was
it's
happening.
a TV show and it's
Mm-hmm.
based off of a novel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it is like a super gritty New York City modern day vampire thing.
Right. And so I don't love the title, but I mean, he apparently is like super well known for it. He didn't even have a picture, so like that's how much like there wasn't about him, which is
Good.
also why I've decided he's part of the brother. Maybe he is one of the Brothers Grimm. He's a vampire, and so he didn't want to show his face so that you don't know that he's 1,000 years old.
Well, he can't show his face because they don't show up in pictures.
Right. So that's my story about him now. So David Grimm, if you're listening, because you're 300 years old, thanks for being a vampire and writing fun movies. Um, our editor's Victor Dubois, who we've talked about before. And then the moment you've all been waiting for. I did skip. Alan Ruck was next in line, but because of this episode, I did skip him and go to Gina Davis.
I literally was watching the credits today and I was like, oh, good, we're going to talk about Alan Ruck today.
I know.
Rude.
He was next in line, but this was the episode we have to talk about Gina Davis. So she plays Angela Brantz, obviously. For those of you who don't know her, she's known for everything. She's known a lot for Thelma and Louise, The Long Kiss Goodnight, A League of Their Own.
I was gonna say if Thelma and Louise and League of Their Own weren't in the top two, or top ones, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean absolutely. And so I do have a few fun facts about her because obviously she's been here for a minute and has done a lot of things. She's a member of Mensa, which is fun.
She's fucking smart as shit.
Yeah. She worked as a window mannequin for a bit, which sounds like the worst job on the planet.
I actually think it's always the best job because I would scare the shit out of people.
But like you're supposed to stay still, and like I would get so bored in my own head that I would get distracted and like wander off and stop like paying attention. It would not go well for me.
I love that.
She was married to Jeff Goldblum. He says they're still besties, so that's nice for them. This was last year. I think it was 2022. Her memoir came out called Dying of Politeness. And perhaps my favorite fun fact that's not actually something that happened, but it almost happened. She was meant to play the role of Queen Beryl in the live action Sailor Moon that was supposed to come out in 96 that never did.
I love her.
So I also love her. She also joined A League of Their Own because Madonna was in it. She wasn't going to be in the show. So she just like makes her choices. She turned down Basic Instinct and another one. It was around the same time because she just didn't want to do them.
Yeah.
So here we are in episode 5. We start with Tomas and Marcus. And Marcus is drawing a picture of the Charnwood Forest. And he's talking about how it's near where he grew up. And he says that it's rumored to be where King Lear went mad. Do you know anything about that? Because I don't know anything about King Lear.
Yes. So King Lear is a Shakespeare play, obviously. And King Lear has 3 daughters in the play. And he basically wanders off into a forest and goes absolutely fucking cuckoo bananas. And then comes back and is like, yeah, I'm gonna die. And so I need to know which one of you I can trust my kingdom to. And his daughters,
super dramatic.
It is. It's a tragedy. 2 of his daughters are absolute fuck twits. And his 3rd daughter is Cordelia, and she's a wonderful Sweet baby angel.
Hmm. I feel like I feel like this side of the horror podcast has been me just being like, can you explain things to me? Explain Shakespeare, explain Catholicism things. Like every episode, I'm like, tell me about this. You are not prepared. I just ask you a lot of
Also,
questions.
just realized that that's the second time in like 3 days that I described someone as a fucktwit, and I don't think that that's a thing that people say normally.
Yes, but I can dig it. I can dig it. It's
Okay.
fun. It's fun and
Okay.
quirky. So keep it up. Keep going. Keep doing it. Um, so we also learned that Marcus is like got something going on with his mom. We don't know what exactly, but he was saying like she used to take him to the forest, and that's the only thing she ever did right. And I was like, okay, we'll find out why, I guess. And this whole intro is just kind of like a collage of seeing where everyone is at starting this episode. So we see like Kat really briefly, who is she fell asleep watching ballet. Um, obviously like in her feels. And then we go to Angela, who's watching the news, and then we see a man in the like baby cam. What is it called? The baby
Baby
monitor.
monitor? Yeah.
And I thought for sure it was the salesman you could see, but it wasn't. It was Henry. He was praying over Casey while she's like tied down. Her face looks like hella gross. She is worse for the wear from the last time we saw her.
Yeah.
Um, and so he's like getting ready to leave, and she's like, "I have a secret." She's like, "Do you want to hear it?" And I was like, "Oh God, no, Henry, you don't want to hear it.
And you don't
Please,
want to hear it.
please don't."
Yeah.
And he does. Obviously, he goes over, and she like just starts like choking him with the chains that are like holding her and like licking his ear. It's oh God,
And
it's
like,
gross,
yeah,
disturbing,
licking his ear
and
and whispering in it.
oh
And I,
God, it's
well,
so
and then
bad.
I was so worried because then the next scene, he's just like catatonic. And I was like, no, Henry's going to die so much sooner than I thought.
So this is one of my predictions for this show is that Henry actually died when she choked him out and the demon went into him, and now there's a just a demon in his body and he's not really himself anymore, which is why he's acting so
I
out of character.
don't agree.
You don't? That's good because I really don't want that to be the case.
And the reason I don't agree is because throughout the rest of the episode, every time we see
I guess
him, he's only like that when he's with Angela,
mm,
and the rest of the time
that's true.
he's praying and reading the Bible the rest of the time.
That's true. That's true. I don't know if
Yeah.
there's like, or maybe if there's like a demon there with him. Like at first, I was like, did the demon leave Casey and go to him because she's chained down and he's not? But obviously, that's not the case because she's still very
Yeah.
demonic.
And I don't think that that's how
I
demons work.
don't think so either. I don't. Well, that's what happened in like the movie though. Like it left the kid like Regan and jumped into the father, and he like jumped out the window. Like,
Yes, but the priest said, I will take you, like leave her body and come
mm,
into mine. You
that's
have to,
true.
and that's the other problem is the reason things are as bad for Casey as they are right now is because she's still fighting the demon and she won't say yes. She won't let him take her over. So
Right.
Henry is the most religious of anyone in the family, and
Mm-hmm.
he would never agree to that, which means he's not a target. I think his kindness and his innocence is going to get him hurt, but
Oh, for
I
sure.
but I don't think that he will ever be. I think that if anyone else, like
Possessed.
of anyone in the story, he's the least likely to have any chance of being possessed.
I think that's fair. And I think also like that probably has a lot to do with like his mental state being in
Yeah,
decline as well. Because I
yeah,
think that from my recollection of other demon movies that I've seen, which are far and few between because those are not my go-tos.
yeah.
They don't go with people that have like a lesser mental decline because they need someone with like a stronger
Right.
like mindset to like move forward with. Um, they don't really go with the like super innocent. So then we go to the credits. He's acting weird. We go straight to the credits. And then we come back to Kat, who is again in her feels. She's looking at an old postcard from Julia and listening to music and like being sad. And then she hears like pounding and like banging around. And so she goes over to like Casey's room. We already know she's like not thrilled about this situation, but she's just kind of like hanging in there. And I thought for sure she was about to go in there and like get got. Like I didn't think she was gonna die or anything, but I thought like Casey was gonna attack her. But instead of opening the door, she went and knocked on it. She was like, Casey, are you in there? Like, what's going on? And she just went back into her room, put her headphones on, like a smart person. She is like,
Yeah.
for not always making the right decisions, she's at least making the like necessary decisions to stay alive at the right time. Like it seems, because like I think that would have
Mm.
gone really poorly.
Oh, if she had entered the room in that moment, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I think she made the right decisions ever again in this episode? No.
No, no, no. That's what I'm saying. Like the necessary to stay alive decisions, because she doesn't get injured the rest of the episode as she would
Oh,
have if she'd gone in the room then.
sure. Sure, sure,
So,
sure.
but they're not good decisions.
Right. Okay. As long as we're on the same page on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Um, no, there's a difference from like necessity to stay alive and like doing the right thing. Very, very separate ends of the spectrum.
Right.
And so we go to Angela and she is just like cleaning the house. That's how I looked this weekend, cleaning all of my cabinets. But she's just like wiping everything down and scrubbing, and she
This,
starts hearing, yeah.
oh no, no. Keep saying what you're
Oh,
saying for a
she
second.
keeps like here. She starts hearing thudding, and she hears like Marcus and Tomas yelling because they're doing the exorcism at the moment, everything. And while she's scrubbing, she like is up on the wall. There's this super gross stain under Casey's like room on the
Yeah.
ceiling when Henry comes in and sees her. But like the visual of Henry like creepily standing in the doorway, I
I was
thought
gonna say, this was the only moment that I doubted,
questioned it. Mm-hmm.
questioned what was going on with Henry, because I really thought he was gonna come in there and knock her off the cabinet and knock her out. And
That's
like
exactly
I
what I
was
thought.
so sure he had turned to the dark side. But then for the rest of the episode on, I could tell that it was less about him being turned to the dark side and him feeling betrayed, which
Yeah, which
she
we
then
learned obviously.
right, but that she then her reaction to him asking her about it is why I knew he was not the problem.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That makes sense. But he was real upset. Um, and so we go back to the actual exorcism, and she starts taunting Tomas, from his like saying how he
Abuelita.
wanted to be, yeah, his abuelita, saying how he wanted to be the first Mexican priest and he'd never be that, like, and
Oh
how
yeah.
he apparently told this story that was a like lie that his grandmother wanted him to be that way, but really it's what he wanted and he didn't want it to sound like self-indulgent. Um, and at first I was like, are you just saying stuff? But the more the episode goes on, it's like, oh, this is like actually what happened. You made
Yeah.
up this whole story because you want to be this way, which means that you're not the right fit to be the first Mexican priest. Sorry to break it to you.
Well, Pope. He is already a priest. That's
Oh, right, right, right.
oh yeah,
I
yeah.
wrote priest. It meant pope, yeah. And then the demon starts talking about Casey, and like they're trying to like they're obviously fighting with her, and they're like, no, she's great, let her go, blah blah blah. And then I I have this terrible habit of watching the show while I'm eating because it happens at the same time. Don't do that. Don't eat things while you watch the show.
Yeah.
But she goes and like breaks her toe, and it like, oh my god, I
Yeah.
didn't care for that. I didn't
No.
care for that at all. It was very gross.
Yeah.
And
I
so
looked away because they showed the bottom of someone's foot, and I just find that disgusting in general. But then
yeah.
I could hear that I didn't want to look up
Mhm.
again. And then I
So I
didn't see
looked
it.
away and then looked back too quickly. Is what happened.
Mm. Yeah,
I
it
didn't
was
write the prop. Wait,
no.
it was. Oh, that's the thing about exorcism stuff is like I'm not super freaked out by the like I don't like demon movies, but I don't like exorcism movies don't really freak me out so much. But like all of the gross like bone breaking and like bodily fluids and stuff that go along with it, that's what gets me. That's what gets me
Yeah.
every time. I
Yeah,
don't care
that's
for
fair.
that.
That's very fair.
Um,
It's the heavy amount of blood that I'm not
yeah,
super great about.
yeah. So we go back to Angela and Henry, and Angela's looking at pictures, um, where they were all like happy, and Henry is again creepily standing in the doorway, as he seems to do now. Um, and he pulls up this piece of paper and he's like, "What is this?" And it turns out it's actually a really cute story. It's whenever he like gave her his phone number, it's the very first phone number she knew from him. They were at a bar and she just kept it all these years, and it was so sweet. He did not find it that sweet. He did not care at that moment because he's mad at her, but I thought it was very cute.
It was very
Um,
cute, except for that she's a liar.
it wasn't his number. Did I miss
No, no,
that?
no, 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 no.
Oh,
It's
like in
except
general is a
in
liar.
general,
Yeah,
like
sure.
in general, he's in the middle of questioning his entire existence and everything he's ever known about
Right.
her. So like that story's not cute anymore.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I will get to it, but I don't blame her for the choices she's
Oh,
made.
no, 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 no,
I
no.
would not be mad at her, especially on the like the all set end of like knowing why. But
Right.
like I also get like, you like your name and everything, whatever. Um, but
But
yeah,
like
so he
also
sits down
you're
with
not
her.
married to her. Like I
Right,
feel like
right.
marrying someone is building a foundation on you can't just like lie about your entire identity.
Sure. I mean, like witness protection though, sometimes like I think they have to do that still. So like, circumstances. Circumstances.
Is
Um,
that oh, I never thought about that. Like when
I
you
would
think
guess so,
about
because like,
right when you like see people in like witness protection, a lot of times it's like already your entire family moves together.
yeah.
But like what
Hmm.
if that isn't?
Like what if it
Huh.
was just you?
And then you like made a whole new
Yeah.
life and you fell in love with someone and you couldn't tell them literally anything about you.
Right. It's basically the same thing. I see it as the same. Like, so I think I like again, I don't know. I'm not in this situation, but like I'm not as like put off by it. But he is, and he sits down with her and asks if she believes in God, and she turns it around immediately and starts saying that he needs to take care of himself. She's like, "I can't do everything for you." And I was like, "Okay, hold on, Angela. You're like going off the deep
Why?
end. This is
That's why I was like,
yeah,
so I didn't obviously know what the demon whispered, but
right.
based on her reaction and the fact that he is the only one who, he's the only one who actually saw what Casey was capable of doing as a demon. And B, he's been the one who's been praying with her. He's been the one who, it was him going to Tomas that changed his mind about actually listening to Angela in the first place. He's been the one saying that, like, they should trust God. And obviously,
Mm-hmm.
also, we know that by listening to the demon, he's weakening himself and falling into the trap the same way that like Marcus and Tomas are capable
Mm-hmm.
of. But also, he's been absolutely like innocent and trusting and believing that God will be there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like if I am literally giving you 150% and you are running 150 yards the opposite direction, how are we supposed to fix
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. Which is like also fair. Like no, I feel like no one's in the wrong. It's just a bad situation.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that that's like not necessarily the case, but that's just how I feel it.
Right, but it
Um,
was her reaction to that that made me
yeah, no, the reaction
question.
was bad.
I was like, what did he find out about her? To
Yeah,
be
I know. I was like,
honest,
what is he talking about?
I'm gonna be 100%. I was so convinced that she cheated on him and that Casey wasn't his daughter, and that's what the demon told him. I was so convinced that that's what the
Oh,
demon told him, and that he believed that Casey wasn't his daughter anymore.
that would have been a good one. I didn't even know. I was like, I don't know where to even begin. Like, maybe she hid money from him. Maybe she like lied about like a secret. Like, I didn't even go to cheating. Like, I just didn't know where to go. I was like, I don't know. Like, maybe he's lying and like she really didn't. But I mean, obviously she lied about something because it becomes like a huge theme through the episode. But
Yeah,
yeah, I like
but
didn't have any bearings what was going on.
yeah.
Um, and so go back to the ex. Oh, and yeah, and then he's like asking her if she's ever lied to him. And we go back to the exorcism, and Marcus is like telling her to fight this demon and like begging her, and the demon comes out as Tomas's grandmother, And this is kind of similar to the movie. Obviously, I assume this is an homage to the movie.
Yeah.
And he immediately just like throws holy water at her and runs away. He's like
Yeah.
not even buying to it. It's like correct. That
Yeah.
is the right move. You know
Well,
this isn't gonna
because he
go
was
well.
starting to listen to it and then he like was like,
Hmm.
no, 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 I can't.
Yeah, yeah. So he's got some growing room to do, and as an exorcist, but that he handled better than he's handled most things, so it's okay. And Marcus obviously goes to check on him, and then they hear Casey scream, and the devil is like, or the demon is just like throwing her around like a rag doll. Like her body is hitting every wall, the ceiling, like it's everywhere. It is insane. And they finally get a hold of her and like chain her back down tighter so that she can't get away. Um,
Yeah.
and then we go to Henry, who's praying in his room, and he leaves behind like a rope on his bed. This part I rewound it like 3 times because first of all, like I was watching on my phone and the lighting is terrible in
Yeah.
like any type of dark horror film on a phone. And so I was
Yeah.
like, maybe I'm not seeing it correctly, but I think it was just a rope. Like, and I didn't know if he was like gonna strangle himself, like Casey had tried to strangle him, if it was like something like a like
Yeah,
leaning
I
towards that.
really, really, really was unsure of what it was that he had there.
Yeah. And like especially because like when you see him walking away from the bed, he's like the silhouettes on the door and it like flashes and it like and so I'm like, I don't know if we're like
Well, and
foreshadowing
they
what's
and they
gonna happen.
flashed back and flashed to the rope. So it like they wanted us
Right.
to know it was there. But I didn't know for I that I genuinely didn't understand that one.
Yeah. I'm assuming that we'll find out eventually, but I don't know either. So he's going and pulling down boxes and just drops everything.
Well,
Everything just like
no,
collapses
something
around him.
because he hears dripping in the closet.
Yeah.
He hears drip because there's a really bad rainstorm. He hears
Right.
dripping in the closet and he goes to get the box that is
Hmm.
getting wet, but the cardboard's already started to disintegrate, so everything flies
Just
out of
falls
it.
apart. Yeah. But he ends up finding a Bible in there, and inside the Bible there's a pressed flowers and a red feather. And I meant to look up if like the red feather was like symbolic of something, but I forgot. So I don't know if it is, but I feel like maybe it's a red herring or like, maybe it's more in your face than that. But I didn't know if it was like, do you know anything about red feathers? They have any significance?
Um, well, I Googled red feather and exorcism, um, and it's talking about when the show when they were trying to decide if it was going to get renewed for a second season, fans just emailed or just mailed red feathers in boxes to Fox because of their
Oh,
connection
okay.
to the demon.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I guess we'll learn more about the red feather then also going forward. Um, and then we go to Casey and poor Marcus is
Oh,
just,
just kidding.
did you get a
Sorry.
spoiler?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
The in the art in the basement in the movie, the art piece that she made, the last thing she did before she was possessed was that bird, that feathered bird that she made.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, yeah, that's a long
It's
shot for us to like
it's
connect.
such a literally I found a what is the connection to the movie? Like I like somebody posted on like movie phone and they were like, obviously this is supposed to connect to the movie, but I don't remember what it is. And that was the answer. That is
It's not even, I'm gonna add
that's
that to the trivia
that is so
because it
fucking
sure wasn't
niche.
there.
That's
That
so
is,
fucking
yeah, like
niche.
we just watched the movie. It's not like it's been years since we've seen it.
Yeah.
So you're looking at watching this TV show 30 years after almost 35 years after the movie's made. And how do you remember that? That's insane. Okay.
So niche.
Anyways,
Maybe
choices.
they talk about it
Um,
more in other episodes that we haven't watched yet.
maybe so, maybe so. This is just the beginning of the connection to the film.
Yeah.
So we go back to Casey, and poor Marcus is just like holding her and praying over her, and he's just wearing himself out. He's so sweet. Speaking of, my aunt read like she's not caught up on our like on the podcast, but she sees when we release new episodes, and whenever she saw the episode that said always trust, like I always feel safe with the angry man or whatever. She's like,
Yeah.
don't do that. And I was like, no, but
I
it's
feel
Marcus. And
safe.
she's seen the show.
No, yeah.
So, but she was
Yes,
like,
that's the
I get
last,
it.
when this comes out, it'll be 2 episodes ago. It's the last episode that's
Yeah,
been released so far, but I
right.
feel safest with the angry man.
Yeah,
Which
it was very
speaking of, apparently my uncle still listens to the podcast every week. Um,
funny.
hey David. Um, but also sometimes he just listens to podcasts in his car, but he's not actually listening. And like we were driving and his car was connected to his phone was connected to the car and was playing a Crime Junkie episode the whole time. And I was like, oh, Crime Junkie, haha. And then the next time he turned the car on, the radio was higher than he realized. And my voice started screaming out of the car at me.
Terrifying.
And I was like, I feel schizophrenic right now. Like that was my own voice yelling at me was very concerning. But it was the most recent episode because apparently he actually listens to them every week. So hi, David.
Oh, thanks, David. That's so
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, that's how I feel every time I like when I put my headphones in, like the Bluetooth after they've been disconnected for a minute, they'll connect to my iTunes on my computer, and the last thing I've usually uploaded sound for is like the podcast, and my voice just like yells at me, and it
Yeah.
terrifies me every time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not where we're meant to be. This is not what it's supposed to be happening. But yeah, so the angry man is being the good man and holding her and praying, and then the salesman shows up as he does. And I'm so sorry. I've been sneezing like a crazy amount lately. I think it's because I've been doing so much cleaning. But there's just like
Yeah. So
dust
you've like
in my body.
got all the dust up. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's like yelling and he's like, why aren't you just giving in? Just give in. And finally he just says, bring her to me. That's the first time we hear it in this episode. And I have a lot of questions. I think I figured it out by the end, but I have a lot of questions, especially right now.
Oh, I mean, I definitely figured it out
Yeah.
by the end. But in that moment, I was a little concerned that the demon was only using Casey to get to Kat.
I
And
thought
that
so too, but I was like, why not just go straight to Kat then? Like, she's so depressed and so in her like this bad mental headspace that like I feel like she'd be easier to get to than Casey. But I guess Casey like has lower self-esteem.
that's the thing I was going to say. Kat is very secure in herself. And like even
Yeah.
through all of this, Kat has made zero illogical, irrational decisions. Like even when her mom's talking, or even when the first time when Tomas went to talk to her and she was like talking about, my mom thinks I'm depressed. This is what's wrong. Yes, I lost my friend. It sucks, but I'm an adult. Like she's I don't think she's capable of being possessed. At least not to start.
Yeah, I don't think so either, and I don't think she's gonna get possessed.
No, I don't think
she's
I don't think she's the right kind of vessel for that.
Right. I just couldn't figure out like why she would be that important, like to be possessed. Like why she would be so much more important than Casey. Because they're like, similar, and Casey's probably more easily manipulated.
Yes.
So but that was all I could think of.
That's what it is. It's manipulation. That's the right word. I don't think she could be manipulated that way.
Yeah, I agree. So we go to Angela and Kat is just like losing her mind. And she's talking about how much she hates this. And she's like, I really want to see her. They won't let me see her. And Angela's just trying to distract her with these old photos. And she's like, here, look at all these nice things. And Kat's just like, we just have to do the right thing. And Marcus walks in and he's like, who's to say what the right thing is? And I was like, this is why I love horror. Because there's no right and like the right and wrong is so skewed, which is what makes it so good.
Yeah.
And then we go to Tomas, who's in the bathroom, and someone's like knocking, and then he starts hearing Jessica. And the lights are flickering, which is bad.
So I already told this story to Courtney, but I want to share it with all of you lovely listeners, because if you listened to last week's episode, you will know that Dan, Mr. I don't like scary things, this is awful, please don't watch The Exorcist in the same room as me, started getting really invested in the show last week when we watched it. This week, I told him I would watch it when I got home, and he was like, no, it's okay, you can watch it. I'm working. And he was not in the room at all for the first half of the episode. And then all of a sudden, he's sitting down on the other couch doing fantasy football draft. And then he just goes, no, why is she there?
I love it. I'm so glad. I'm going to convert him. I was converted from listening to you and Monica because remember, I used to be scared of everything.
That's true.
And then I started doing stuff with you and Monica. And then you were like, hey, come do this thing with me. And I was like, I guess I'm horror now. And now I'm horror. Like,
yeah,
that's who I am.
Yeah, no,
So,
he is very, very upset with Tomas this episode. He does not
same.
agree with any of his life choices.
No, that's like, I mean, that's totally fair. I feel the same way. But yeah, so the lights are flickering, bad sign. And he goes into Casey's room and sees Jessica and starts praying. I was like, correct. Just leave. And she's like, he's talking about, he's like, you're a married woman. And she's like, only in the eyes of God. And I was like, yeah, because this person's the devil. Like, these are all red flags. How are these
except
not
for,
like...
No, he starts by not by arguing with the logistics of their relationship. He starts by saying, you're not Jessica. You're not Jessica. And then somehow he stops believing that she's not Jessica.
I think because he wants to believe so bad. Like, he's so, like, wants that relationship that he knows he shouldn't have, that it's so easy to, like, give in. And, like, she even says, like, which is very icky, she's like, doesn't Christ preach to feed the hungry? And I was like, oh, let's not.
She says that and then sticks her hand down her dress.
Yeah. I was like, what are we doing? Like, let's...
No, here's the thing. That is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. B, this is not actually Jessica. It is a 16-year-old girl. C, said 16-year-old girl has been locked and chained and bloodied and bruised by a demon for so long that even any sexual scent she could potentially have is musty, dusty, crusty, scabby.
Yeah, it's not good.
The layers upon layers with which this made me want to vomit.
Yeah. He in traditional fashion of making things worse, he starts kissing her stomach and we see her turn back to Casey because that's obviously who she was the whole time. And she just says, I will make you forget God. I was like, oh no. And then Marcus walks in, thank God, and just straight up punches her in the face. And she's like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I was like, yeah, that's also what I'm talking about. Like, sometimes you just got to punch a demon in the face. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I
honestly, I'm going to be real for a second here.
Oh God.
I know that people say that women are weaker and more able to be manipulated. Okay. And in some cases, I think that might be true. But men are taught to hide their weakness, which means that someone who exploits hidden weaknesses is going to have a much easier time doing that with a man with a reputation. So
and also,
why?
Like, women are like have learned how to like fight that like manipulation because we are like we have more options to fight it because people think we're weaker.
But also a man, specifically a man with a reputation of being a good person, is probably hiding something.
Sure.
And so having exorcisms exclusively performed by priests who are men who are often going into jobs to hide from something about themselves, like,
and don't have an escape out of their like emotions because they can't have any vices.
Correct. Like, for example, something that the demon says in this scene coming up is that there is an allusion to the fact that Marcus might be gay.
Yes.
That's and a lot of times men who went into the priesthood, like, and I'm not talking about like the men who abuse children. Like that's not cool. I'm not going into
Sure.
that. But
That's a
often a lot
different
of totally,
situation.
I'm not talking about people who are bad people. A lot of times, especially in older times when religion was the core of society, men who found themselves to have gay tendencies or urges went into the church because they wanted to actively choose God over what they deemed to be their own sinful nature. So gay
Right.
men hiding that about themselves in the priesthood is an active part of the church, and not hiding like it's a dirty secret, but like covering up or making up for their sin in that way, in the way
Right.
that that's the way that it was perceived for them.
And
So
I think it's so interesting that it's alluded to for Marcus because he does have other vices that we've seen him like
mhm.
actively partake in. Like, and so it's like that's not even his quote unquote worst vice. Like that's not his thing that he's like
Yeah,
this is the biggest thing that he's hiding from. It
but
just seems like
but
something else that he's
but
hiding from.
just as a whole about this one
Hmm.
group of people who, if you're talking about people who go into the priesthood to make up for what they deem bad about themselves,
Right.
as being the only group who are allowed to interact with demons, seems like a mistake because they seem like a really easy to pick at group of humans.
Right.
And I feel like, I don't know, a bunch of like 30 something recovered from battered relationship women, probably much better choices for
Yeah.
exorcists. Um,
Absolutely. Because they've
because
I
you
mean the
can't,
the nine, I mean
yeah,
F9 is
but
like
like,
killing
here's the
it.
thing, you can't say anything about me that I haven't already thought about myself or been told by my ex. So, you can't get into my head.
Yeah, like and like the worst thing that would happen is like if you somehow did is like you close off. It's not like you're gonna
Like
retaliate
the
and
things
fall for
that
another trick. You just like
what my insecurity is going to do is going to make me cry and not talk to my boyfriend for a little bit. Like, it's not going to make
right.
me like leave the priesthood and sleep with my married ex-girlfriend.
Exactly. Exactly. Like those are much easier people to manipulate. Um,
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
I think like badass ex abuse women should be the new exorcists.
Let's do it. Let's start it.
Yeah.
I'll write it. I am
Yeah.
I'm really looking I'm really ready to like start writing a new novel. And so
Yeah. That's now
maybe one of these seven things I've talked about, I will actually
yeah,
like start
I
a novel
it's
for.
it's just because I keep giving you fucked up ideas because my brain is a horrible
No,
place to
it's you
live.
and Rachel, because Rachel has these like wild and crazy like dreams that make no sense, but
Yeah.
are great basis for like novels. And then like I have some that I've just like
Yeah.
stored away for years and I just haven't been writing. So like I probably have like eight topics to write about.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
one day I might.
Hitler and
Hmm.
exorcisms, those are the ones I've given you.
Yeah. Yep. I have a children's book that's kind of depressing. This came from my own brain. And then I have like there's one of Rachel's dreams. It's like a hidden school with like a gel underneath. Like I have like wild stories that like I hope one day I write. I understand that's under my control, but I also hope one day I write them. Um, but yeah. So okay, so Tomas runs out of the room, obviously, after Jessica has been there. And Marcus follows him and he's like, you can't do this. He's like you're not strong enough for this. Like this is a problem. And he's like, have you not made any mistakes? And Marcus is the most like thing that I'm like, this is gonna be my new go-to. He was like, oh, I've made plenty. It just turns out this one was yours. Like people turn it around and they're like, you make mistakes too. It's like, okay, but that doesn't change the fact that you're making a mistake right now.
Right.
Like,
He's like, yeah, I have definitely fucked up, but in this case,
yeah.
you're the one fucking up. You're the one who's going to hurt the girl. So get your shit together and get out
Right.
of here.
Like we're not gonna just like cancel it out because I also did something bad at some point in my life. Like this is just a
That
separate
doesn't
situation.
that doesn't help. That doesn't help.
No. Yeah. So I liked that. And then
Yeah.
Kat runs in and sees Casey, and Casey says that they're torturing her. because she knows she can get to Kat's emotions that way. I mean, I think that's the only way that anyone's going to get to Kat is through Casey, because I don't think she has enough emotion towards anything else in her life. So
Yeah.
that's not great. Um, so we go to Tomas, who's now walking where I thought was home in the rain. Turns out he goes to see Jessica, because of course he does.
And Dan's response was, he's going to ruin everything.
And that is accurate. That is very valid. Kudos, Dan. And we go back to Marcus and Casey, and this is where she insinuates that he's gay. And she starts coming out as his dad. And we start seeing now what he was referencing in the beginning with his mom. We learn that him and his dad didn't get along, and like his dad did something bad and we don't know what. And his mom shows up at the door, and he's like, you can tell that he's like a little bit off, but he seems a little bit hardened to it as well.
Yeah.
And we have this like great back and forth. Terrible. Everything that's happening is bad.
Yeah.
Shot really well. Scene going back.
Oh yeah, no, this scene is gorgeous in the worst, most disgusting way.
Yes, it's gorgeous in a way that I wish none of it happened. Yeah. Tomas and Jessica are getting after it. They start making out, and we're flashing back and forth between that and the scene with Marcus and his parents. And his mom comes up, and she's basically telling him he was a mistake, and they were like so happy, and then all of a sudden he was born, and that's where everything went wrong. And she said he cost his father his pension, which is why he was so angry. And we learned that his father killed his mother with a hammer. So that's not good.
Yeah,
and then
no, but the ghost with it reminded me of Nora in Murder House with the thing on her head. Yeah.
Yep, I was gonna say the same thing. It was like visually well done, and it was essentially the same as Nora's shot in Murder House.
Yeah.
And so the demon is obviously trying to get him worked up, and he starts telling him, he's like, you should take what you've gotten, like your genes you've gotten from your dad and all this anger for what he did to your mom, and just kill Casey. It's like, oh, okay, we're just killing her now? Like, that's fine.
Well, she's not doing what he wants.
Sure. And yeah. And he's saying no, and he starts like praying and being like, take my hand, come on, I can see you, like, come with me. And she's screaming, and then the lights start flashing. And it turns out God has called the police. Like a moron.
Also, the way that they did this back and forth scene where Casey was screaming as she was about to release the demon and Jessica was screaming as she was orgasming was so beautiful, but also the most angry I've ever been. Like, I was the most angry I've ever been.
Yep. It was terrible. But then Casey, before everything happens, says Ipsa Venit, and I immediately looked up. They do tell us later what it means, but I looked it up anyways, and it stands for he's coming. And then officers come in, and they put her on a like gurney and go to take her away, and then they are locking up Marcus and Kat. I was just like, Kat, you know nothing about what's going on. And she's like, this is for the best. Everyone's gonna be great. Angel's like, what have you done? Don't, like, he's a priest. Why are you doing this? And like, don't take her away. And
yeah.
And then the scene I really liked, when Marcus is pressed against the wall, they take Casey out, and then they go to grab Marcus, and when they pull him back, Henry's just sitting there, like, leaning against the wall, like, stone-faced. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, you are really not buying into emotion right now, are you? No. But it was so good.
And then the next shot
is Casey getting put into the ambulance. Kat makes eye contact with her, and she pulls down her oxygen mask and smirks. And that's fun. And then we go to the ambulance being pulled over for a reason. I think they said that it was like a weird error or something later, but it wasn't. It like isn't important.
Yeah.
But then we see like dents coming into the ambulance, and Casey is just wreaking havoc. She is murdered everyone in the ambulance, blood everywhere, everyone's dead, and she has escaped.
And then they do a close up of every dead thing and cord ripped apart and everything on the inside of the ambulance. And Dan goes, is the episode over? So I paused it.
Because it feels like it should be.
That feels like a great place to end.
Uh-huh.
But there was 10 more minutes of the episode. And here's the thing. With a moment that big, all I could think was, oh, because the other thing is this is episode 5.
Yeah.
So it's the mid-season point of the episode of the series.
Yep.
Has to be big. How are they going to be bigger than this?
I thought someone was going to die.
That
was the only thing I could think of.
I couldn't. Somebody had, like, in my mind, somebody had to die. I didn't know. She literally killed everyone and escaped, and now we don't know where she is. And she's like the most powerful demon ever. Like, and she literally told Marcus that she's going after the Pope.
And because it didn't end that way, I felt like she had to kill someone we knew. Like, I was expecting like a family member or something to be done.
Right.
Like, I didn't know what was about to happen.
I could not figure out what in the next 9 minutes was going to top what had just happened.
Well, buckle up, Buttercup. So we go to Marcus, who's in lockup. We learned that Casey's been missing for 2 days, which means Marcus has been in lockup for 2 days. And he starts saying Ipsivany, and he's kind of like running through it. And I guess the like literal translation is himself is coming. But it does translate. He eventually says he is coming. Yeah. And then Bennett shows up to get him out, which is kind of him. That's how we know that he's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
He just has a lot going on. Then we go back to Angela.
Well, and doesn't Bennett say that he doesn't know what he's going to do with Marcus? And Marcus is like, and Marcus is like, you need to warn His Holiness that this shit is not cool.
Yeah, he's like, this is bad. He's like, you got to warn him. So we go to Angela. She's sleeping fitfully. And when she wakes up, Henry's just standing over her. And I was like, what are we doing? Are we like gonna kill Angela? Are we trying not to kill her? Like, that's what I thought was coming next. I was like, maybe he got the rope out to strangle her. Like, I don't know. Yeah. And we don't get an answer to the rope this episode. But I really tried to make it fit into this episode.
Yeah.
Throughout it. And he just says, Angela, is there something you need to tell me? And she starts telling him, she's like, I'm sorry for being selfish. Like, I haven't really been thinking about others. And he just sets a Bible down on the bed. We go to Tomas, who is at the church praying.
Well, here's the thing. When he found that Bible in the thing and he saw the flowers and then he saw the feather, I obviously didn't know what it meant. But I was sure that he found something in that Bible that
for sure
confirmed whatever Casey had told him. Mm-hmm. But I was still pretty sure that there was another man. I was so sure.
Well, I thought maybe she had like killed someone in her past, like, and this was like, and then she kind of like had like a turnaround or something, you know, like maybe she killed someone at 15 and then like got released, and now this is her trying to like turn her life around.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the demon was attracted to them, because of the darkness. And like, I literally had like spiraled. I had no idea.
I thought there was like a paternity test tucked in the Bible or something.
Yeah. Which is also a very valid and good like assumption.
Yeah.
But we're at the church now. Thomas is praying as he should be, where he should have been instead of at Jessica's. And he turns around and Angela's come to visit him. And he says, do you know St. Anthony? And we learned that St. Anthony is the
patron saint of lost things.
And St. Jude is the patron saint of lost causes. And I was like, that is depressing that our cancer center is called St. Jude if it's for lost causes. Like, okay, that's not inspiring.
It's not. So St. Jude is the patron saint of lost causes. But he's also the wording in the Catholic Church is the patron saint of desperate cases and lost causes.
Okay, so desperate cases makes way, because like my cousin went to St. Jude, but he survived it. He's totally fine now.
No,
so he was not lost cause.
St. Jude is the patron saint. I had to look up the wording because I knew it was like very particular. He's the patron saint of desperate cases. So childhood cancer is the most desperate of cases.
Yes.
Yeah, no, St. Jude's Research Center is not saying your sickly child will die. Like, that's not the...
That is great to hear, because I sure took it that way when he just said it on the episode.
No. Well, because then Angela brings up the very good point of how do you know when a lost thing becomes a lost cause?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
they start talking about his grandmother and now Papa Mexicano, which is the Mexican Pope. And you can see it on his face that like he's still kind of like reeling because this is the story he's told everyone and it's not true.
yeah.
Um, and then Angela starts telling her story. And she says that she was always moving around from place to place. And she had a quote unquote breakdown in DC. She was like, but it wasn't really a breakdown. And I was like, this is where she killed someone. And this is like, then she did change her name. And then she says, I had this imaginary friend, this little red bird, which makes sense. It ties in with the red feather, but like it didn't take me there really.
Yeah.
And then she's like, basically the same thing that was happening with Casey is what she's explaining. And
She
she's
was like,
like,
he made me, he did incredible things. He made me do incredible things.
yeah. And then she's like, and
My,
my mom told my story and I kept running away because I didn't want to keep telling it. And she's like, and that's why I changed my name. And that's when it clicked for me. It took me that long.
oh no, no. Worse for me. I mean, at this point, I knew I was like, oh my God, is this? And then as she said that she changed her name to Angela because she wanted to be an angel and she wanted to like save herself. But as she's saying that sentence, it flashes to the Bible and the front cover of the
Yeah.
Bible says two rags. And
Oh my God.
I threw the remote. When I saw the word rags, I
Oh.
threw the remote. And Dan goes, why did you just throw my remote? And then she finishes the sentence. And as if that couldn't get worse,
The
Chris shows up. I
literally lost her. I was like, oh, okay, really, that wasn't the biggest thing when she escaped the ambulance. We're bringing up the original film. Like, are you kidding me?
name was Reagan.
Oh,
I literally, like I said, I threw the remote. I literally only grabbed the remote fast enough to not let Hulu autoplay the next episode, and then I just walked around in a circle. Like I could not sit down. I couldn't talk. Dan kept asking me if I was okay, and I was just walking around in circles. I was like, I don't even know how I'm gonna podcast tonight because
yeah.
I am overwhelmed.
I stood up and texted you, and then I went like washed out my coffee mug and like went to the bathroom. I was like, I can't sit at my desk anymore. I was like, I have to like go do stuff before I get back to what I was working on.
I thought nothing would ever affect me the way Violet's death did. And I'll be honest, still have never been as shocked by anything. I had a whole conversation with Monica the other day about how I at that moment will be burned in my mind of something I cannot believe it happened. This
Wild. Oh gosh.
wild because
I was not expecting it.
I was not expecting it either, and it's not like a twist, like oh my God, this I could not have like I never could have seen it coming. Sure, like
yeah.
I was so sure that the TV show didn't connect to the books. Like I was so convinced that this was a totally different story.
A totally different world, yeah.
Yeah, I thought the Easter egg of the Georgetown newspaper in the first episode was just an homage and not an Easter egg. Like
Me too. Yep, I thought it was a completely new like universe, and we were just kind of like throwing some things in there that we like because we have so many like similar scenes that are very homage based with the grandmother talking to Tomas. Like that's obviously like an homage to the film. And so it's like we get a same thing with like Bates Motel. It's like we get a lot of those like influences where we see them coming through, but you don't realize that it's actually the same people until the end. Oh gosh.
And like Courtney was saying, I don't remember if you were saying it to me or if you were saying it on the podcast, that you were starting to feel, oh yeah, no, we said this on Sunday's episode when we were telling people to listen. You were starting to not be 100% into the show. And I told you from episode 1, I was going to keep watching it, but I didn't feel anything for it. And after the 3rd episode, when Casey killed the guy on the bus, that was the first time that I was like, I need to know what happens next because holy fuck. But I also was still not like
disconnected a bit from it.
I was not gripped
Hmm.
by the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, I
I
agree. I felt the same way, and
I
I was like, the writing is just subpar. Like, it's the characters are fine, but they're not like developing as much. They're very like kind of stagnant, like for who they are. You kind of know what's going to happen. Not anymore. Now I have no idea
I
what's
have
going to
no idea.
happen. No. Yeah. And that's where we end the episode. So I do have a bit of trivia for you.
Well, I mean, that does explain why in the first episode, Angela was just like, it's demons without a fucking second
Yeah, no
guess.
question. She was like, been there, done that. Like, this is how it goes. Yeah.
Um,
So,
it, it it's also confusing that she didn't know how to get holy water after that, though.
I mean, but she didn't get holy water when she
That's
was
true. That's
possessed.
true.
Like, she was possessed. And she, like, says, she's like, I don't remember most of what happened, which is for the best. And so, like, she didn't have to do anything about the demon. It was just in her. So, and she obviously is not really speaking to her mom because she was selling her story and she didn't want her to. Um, so Cranwood Forest that Marcus mentions at the beginning, and he's like, "Oh, it was down the road from where I grew up." It's actually 25 miles from where Ben Daniels grew up.
Perfect.
So
I love it.
that was fun. And fun fact, I know we've only seen the original film. We haven't seen any of the like sequels or anything, but this is
Yeah.
the first portrayal of Chris McNeil since Ellen Bernstein in the original film. We don't see Chris McNeil in any of the other like renditions.
Yeah, that's why the new one, The Believer, is supposed to be
Mhm.
such a big deal because it's the first time Chris is back.
Yeah, aside from here, obviously, but
Obviously.
for the movie universe. Um, yeah, so I was thrilled to have trivia this week because they have not been giving me trivia.
Yeah.
Um, but
I had one piece of trivia on Sunday and then some other things that were like spoilers for like shit that happens 3 seasons later, and I was like, that is not trivia.
well, they put spoiler on like the first portrayal of Chris McNeil, and I was like, okay, well, it's a spoiler if you look at this before you watch the show, but if you like after you've watched the episode, it's not really.
That's
So
true. See, I do my notes before,
mhm.
but I've also seen the show before.
Yeah,
So like
then that's why I
I'm
always
not
do mine after just in case.
yeah.
Yeah. So who do you want to punch in the face?
Yeah. And I know that's a, I was like, I know that that might be a controversial pick because there were some other
No,
people who fucked up hardcore this episode. But yeah,
no,
Cat,
Kat was also my first pick, so I think she's definitely the right one. But since you picked her, I'm picking Tomas.
right.
Oh God, I need him to go like sit by himself in a room for just like a few days and like decompress, maybe do some yoga, meditate, have a snack,
Read the
like
Bible again.
read the Bible, like just take a breather and try again. Um,
Also,
so
like
who? Oh,
the fuck did you become a priest because you wanted to be the first Mexican pope?
right, like that is the most like unpriest thing. Like they
That
don't.
like that's the level of holy of Henry VIII making his own church.
Right, yeah, yeah. So like I've always thought Tomas was like inherently a good person, but this is making me question like where he lies. Like I don't think he's bad, but I don't think he's like as pure as like he's portrayed in the beginning. And
Hmm.
so I'm interested to see how he like
Redeems himself.
unfolds. Oh, I'm interested to see more about the inside before he redeems himself.
Oh,
I want to
okay.
know what else is buried deep in there. Uh,
I mean,
so,
preferably not before everyone dies.
well, no, like, like just throughout is fine.
Okay.
So who's your MVP?
That is difficult, because there were not a lot of people making good decisions this episode. Um, I have to say Marcus because I
Yeah,
genuinely don't think there's a lot of um argument for anyone else. There's only one other person that I think even landed in the positive column this episode.
yeah. So Marcus is definitely like the correct answer. He's also who
Yeah.
I would have picked.
Yeah.
But because I knew you were gonna pick Marcus, I picked Angela. flashback.
See,
And
I
like,
think Father Bennett was the only other one that I said even landed on the positive
oh,
column
true.
this week.
He was positive.
I mean, he
But
wasn't
like,
in
and I
it
know,
enough to really be the MVP.
sure. But like, I get that Angela didn't do great things, but like, in the end, she was this whole episode trying to kind of be the best for everyone. She was trying to like distract them with happy pictures when they were a happy family. And maybe it wasn't the right move, but it was, she was trying, and she was like letting the priest do their thing because she knew that's like what they needed to do to help Casey. Like, and she tried to fight everyone to like make sure Casey was getting like the only treatment that she knew would work. And so like her heart was in the right place, even if she didn't do everything
I'm
correctly. And
not
like,
saying that her motive wasn't fear,
no,
but
for sure.
when your child is possessed by a demon, don't you think disclosing the fact that your experience with it was a little more firsthand than that to at least your husband, if not the priests doing the exorcism, should be like in the top 10 things you did?
Yeah, I think I would definitely like tell the priest first so they know that it's like in like a family thing, it seems. And then they kind of know what's gonna happen because obviously you now know that like the demon's going after Reagan because
Yeah, but
that's who
even
he
if
did it
the demon
for.
wasn't actually after Reagan per se, the
Hmm.
demon uses things to hurt you,
Yeah,
which you know because your mom told the story to everybody and their fucking mother.
right.
So
And like I agree my next stop would be the husband because you'd want to be like, look, and like especially because he already believes. It's not like you're convincing him that this is what's happening. Like
right.
he already believes. He's the one praying. He's the one that's like full force. He's the one who's seen everything happen. Like
And
it's not going to be a big leap.
you can even say the reason that this is so hard for me is because I know what it's like and I can't be emotionally available right now because I'm scared.
Right. And like, so that would definitely, and like, it would be different if he was like fighting the exorcism the whole time and was like, this isn't real. Like, why would you do this? Like, someone who didn't believe, and then you're like, oh,
Right,
what
like
happened to you
her
too? And then they're like,
trying
oh,
to
you're
tell Kat,
crazy.
like her
Like,
trying to tell Kat
yeah,
that you don't understand, but not knowing how to tell Kat, fine.
yeah, yeah. Because
But
Kat just like doesn't believe it and is like
but
not accepting
Henry is
it. But
already
Henry,
with you.
yeah, he already believes. Like, it's not like you would just be telling him something that you dealt with that was traumatizing. And it's like, it's fine not to disclose all of your trauma up front for the best, probably. But like,
But
if you like
the other
when the
thing is
opportunity arises, maybe it's the right time, you know?
the other thing is, and this doesn't necessarily have to do with how she should or should not have told someone. This demon, you were once possessed by a demon and successfully had an exorcism, and yet you somehow have hesitancy about trusting God or the church, and that feels icky to me.
I mean, I get that, but also like I think it might lean more a lot on the church as well because you see how like the exorcists that they're using are not the people that are like super deep into the church. They
Right. No,
have
no,
to
no.
get these
And
like
okay, obviously,
outcasts. And
maybe
so,
not the church is probably not
but
the
like
words I
God,
meant,
yeah,
but every time Tomas or Marcus or Henry or anyone has asked her if she believes in God, she evades the question. If
sure.
I
Yeah,
had
that
already
I
been
would,
saved, if I had already been saved by from a demon once, I'm not really
yeah.
sure that I would have doubt left.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't see how you could. Like,
And for
especially because like it's one thing if somehow you were like if it was a demon, but they like you did like this whole mental treatment and you went like and it just like was worked out that way. And then you were like, I don't believe in God. It was a mental thing. It was like a medical thing. But like you went through a priest, like you watched a man jump out a window and die. Maybe you don't remember it because that was when you were being released from the demon. But like you know what happened. You've read the stories, even if you didn't want to. You know you've read at least some of them. And so
yeah,
even if you don't remember, like you know that it was
yeah.
priests and doing God's work. Like
Mm.
so yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, so do you have any predictions going into next week?
I don't even have a reaction to the episode quite yet, so I for sure don't have a prediction.
Yeah, I mean, I really think someone's gonna die soon. Like someone like that we care about. Like
Soon,
obviously
like,
people died this episode, but like we don't
no, but
like
like
even
I
know.
think someone does have to die soon. That's kind of coming. Um,
Hmm.
I I do think that they're gonna, as much as they keep talking about the Pope, I do think that the Pope won't be here till maybe the season finale. I think that is
Oh yeah,
probably.
yeah,
I remember being very worried in the second episode that the Pope was going to happen too fast, but I do think we've got some time on
yeah.
that. Um,
I agree. I wonder if she's gonna like Casey would like kidnap Kat to get to Reagan. Like I don't know if that's like an option because like I think Kat like in her heart of hearts knows that Casey's not right, but she won't accept it all the way because she hasn't seen anything happen. And I could see Casey kind of convincing her to like, I need you to come with me to protect me. I'm not safe here, or something like that. And I don't know if that's like off the wall, but I could see it like, and then Angela having to, or Reagan having to like go, like be the one to
yeah,
find
that's the
him
other
or
thing. Are we
something. I
going to
don't
keep
know.
calling her Angela or Reagan? I don't even
I
fucking
know,
know.
like, I wrote both names down when I wrote her for MVP. I was like, I don't even know anymore. I guess Reagan is her like actual name.
Right. Thank God I've never looked at the IMDb because I would have both character names, wouldn't it?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't even look. I don't because I don't like I haven't looked at their names when I just look at their like
Right.
the cast list and I click on their faces. And then I go to the like because when I go to their page, I don't look at what character they play when I'm looking through the shows. I'm looking at the show titles. And then if it's like a show I know that's different, I look at the character. But I
Yeah.
don't know. That's a good question. Because I know some shows do that. Because I've like seen that before where it's like messed me up. Where it's like this person is this person that person. I'm like, oh no. But
Right.
I don't, yeah, I would think they wouldn't though. Like at least not. I mean, they might now, but I think they wouldn't put it, especially like when it's coming out until like
I feel
the
like
split happens.
I have to look now.
Yes, I would like you to look because I can't use my phone because it's recording. I think it
Right.
happened on. I think it was an American Horror Story that I like saw the two different character names and then it spoiled something for me. Um, but there's 12 seasons, so I could or 11 seasons, so I couldn't even begin to tell you what
No.
season it
And
was or who it was.
she is just listed as Angela Rance.
That's what I would do. That's how I
Yeah.
would like do it. So like that's
I
smart.
I do
But I've definitely
appreciate
seen
that.
other stuff. Yeah.
Well, and also things like okay, so like Michael Shanks obviously is the voice of a lot of the
Yeah.
aliens
Sure. Like
on
Thor and
and Thor and Machete or um what's his name?
I had it before you said it. Uh
Machello.
Machello, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if you look at IMDb, it just says Dr. Daniel Jackson. It doesn't give you the full list of everything that he.
This is different because she is Reagan. She's not Angela, but that's
Yeah.
so but yeah, interesting. Well, I think that's all I have. I don't think I have any more predictions or thoughts. I
So,
mean, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings, but we've we've expressed enough here today, I feel.
yeah.
So if you have thoughts and feelings, if you were as shocked as we were that it was Reagan, and also it was really well done because I did not figure it out and it did not feel out of place when it was revealed either.
Correct. No, it
Like,
felt absolutely like they had been planning this the entire time, and I had
yeah,
not a clue.
yeah. So kudos to the writers, to
Yeah.
the Grimm brothers, David Grimm.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so if you have thoughts, feelings, whatever, want to talk to us, you can email us deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you for Sci-Fi Sunday.
Bye.
See ya.